I'm not a fan of the heat, but it's worth it. Definitely a fan of this place and the opportunity to have it here. So we are putting in the sweat equity now to get these benefit, these rewards here coming. What's to come this fall. So what we're going to talk about this morning, guys, is this. So to finish that, as I'm wiping sweat off my face here, moral of the story on that tidbit of this video here, guys, is like I always say, stay whitetail driven, keep pushing through, start your projects early in the morning. It's summer, so you get these done, and you're out of the woods come September and October. Let things start settling in. So what we're going to talk about today, guys, is we're going to talk about the opportunity to use I'm going to set this down, the opportunity to use licking branches. You know, I hear a lot of guys maybe claiming somebody started it, somebody didn't. I think giving credit where credit is due, I think old Jeff Sturgis there was one of the ones first in the industry that I know of that started using them on a regular basis, promoting, you know, lines of travel. And kudos to Jeff, because it works. Now, as old Uncle Ted preaches and drives home with the Michigan DNR, there is a licking branch about every, you know, there's a couple an acre, you know, maybe 2, maybe 3, depending on your terrain, of course. If it's field, there's not going to be as many, but you know, you get the right deer habitat, and these licking branches have been something that deer have used throughout their, you know, have used for years, and it's something that they teach to their offspring, and it's the way they communicate. So what we do, we're fortunate enough to be able to use them to help promote these lines of travel. What we're going to talk about today is one of the reasons I'm most sweated up here is because I had this licking branch here, and it was on just a little grade. This was actually the first one that I hung, and I'll show you the reason. Because it's right above right below one of those bands that I have showed you in the past, and I've now been able to mulch this trail into it. And this is a dynamite piece of the farm. So we're in here cutting accesses today, doing one a day in the mornings until it gets too hot that I can't stand it. But these licking branches are something that like we have talked in the past, we tie these to the points of impact. Why do we tie these at the point of impact? Because it's an information station. You know, you've heard me refer to these licking branches over the years as the inventory stick, you know, an inventory tool. And that's exactly what it is. It's not only an aid for us, it's a way that the deer communicate with each other, so they're actually using it for inventory as well. You know, they're inventory in their own herd. And hence the reason we use them, so we can inventory the herd as well through camera pictures, and you know, bringing them into better bow opportunities. So this one here is one of those ones I wanted to chat with about today. Is just because you know, hang a licking branch in front of a tree stand, it doesn't mean that they're just going to go to using it. There's a couple of key points that I wanted to touch on in this video today that really emphasize, you know, why they use them, and you know, what to do to really power these licking branches up. So one of them is, the first one is the, you know, finding the right spot to put them to begin with. You know, a lot of folks are trying to recreate the wheel. Now, if it's in a spot where you're blowing a transition area through, where you don't have any edge, and you're doing some TSI, you're taking some timber out, and you're clear cutting these transitions, obviously put it in the center of them transitions, because when they grow back, that's going to be where you want it. Now, if you're in a open hardwood setting and you're not doing that, like on a lease or out on public ground, well, they're not just going to, it is a magnet, don't get me wrong, but they're not going to just walk 40-50 yards in the middle of an open timber setting to use them. So we get a little feedback, hey, you know, I hung one of these and they don't work. Well, they got to be in the right spot. You know, just like anything, your tree stand's not going to work if your tree stand's not in the right spot. So what you're looking for is a pinch point, a funnel, and an intersection or a main trail. You know, that's on a bench, such as we are here. You know, and I do is I hang these right in the center. Now, you know, what do you hang is the question. I hang these right in the center of the trail. Yes, if you have vine is good, but I have a couple here on the farm where I usually try to use something within the stand, area, so I'm not carrying them around, and there wasn't a vine there, and I've got a couple here back home. Obviously, I've used the willow whips that you've seen, in the past on the videos around the ponds. That work really well. Anything with a, what I say, an abrasive bark, 3/4 of an inch to an inch with a heavy bark. Now, what a lot of folks do is they cut the tree off where the bark is wrinkly, like a white oak. Works well because it's longevity. I mean, they're heavy, but they last a long time versus a vine that you'll have to replace every couple years. Whatever they rub on in your area other than pine is what we use. So, pine, the reason I don't use pine, even jack pine, even though they like to rub the crap out of them, especially in Michigan, I don't use them because of the sap content, and it takes away from the smell. Just I know when they dry out it probably isn't as bad, but the reason that we're hanging them is so their preorbital glands, their forehead glands are on there and they're communicating with each other, and the last thing I want is to put a sap content in there and destroy that. So vine is great. If you got vine, use it. If not, search your area. But a lot of folks do, like I was saying, is they cut the tree off and the rough bark's on the bottom, and then they use that, they flip it around so the slick bark is on the shaft part or the bottom part of that where the deer communicate. And you want to do that just in reverse. You want the rough bark at the bottom. So the rougher the bark is, what I find, the rougher the bark on the bottom, such as a vine or something abrasive, what it is it soaks in more of the scent. That's what I find. Excuse me, I've tried the other things. I've tried beech because they love to scrape under beech. And to me, they use the beech because of the leaves and not so much the tree itself, and I find that it doesn't leave as much scent. So just my findings over the years. Some folks have tried everything. I've got folks that have tried sumac. I've got I use the willow whips at home. There's all kinds of different things that you can use out there. Pick what's best for your area. Vine is probably the best if you can get it. One of the reasons I feel that vine is it's natural. It's kind of always got a little bend to it or something. It's that deep dark color that they like. But grapevine, when you cut it, it drips grape juice and it's an attractant. So that's one of the things where they go right to using it, and then I think they just get accustomed to it because of that smell, and then they're off to using it. So which is great, which is fine. Once you hang them in the center of the trail. Hang them, I'm pretty tall, I'm 6'6", but I hang them at belt height. And the reason I hang them at belt height or just below is so all the deer use them, like we've talked in the past. This is not just a buck inventory stick. This is a herd inventory stick. And this is a way of communication for the herd. So you want them to be at the height where everybody can use it. And so when everybody uses it, everybody talks. Now where they're powerful is obviously inventory. This time of the year, this one is actually, now I just checked the camera and it went from I don't know, every 2 weeks, maybe 10 videos to it's been here a week since the last time I was in here, and it's got over 20 videos on it. And the reason of it is I enhanced the transition area through here. We did some mulching, tied 3 trails into one, and really promoted it, and it exploded like I knew it would. So do they physically put their nose on this come fall? Well, they're going to relate. They're going to relate to all the improvements you're doing. They're going to relate to your transition area because of edge. They're going to relate to debris on the ground. And the reason that we're putting these at these points of impact, guys, is so they will relate to it. When you get to the end of October, here, that first week of November, further south you go a little bit later. When you're in that last couple weeks right before Halloween, let's say, either side of it, depending on where you're at in the old whitetail range, they may not physically stop at each one of them, but they're cruising. And the reason that we're hanging these and we're promoting this good scent on here, and keeping that scent on there, is because they don't physically have the time to run and stick their nose on that licking branch during that time. But they're gonna scent check from downwind. So, which makes your side access even more powerful, because like this situation this is on a bench right behind me here. This bench continues all the way through. We've got the licking branch, we've got the camera, the Meyer hit list camera, one of the Meyer hit lists, just an SD card in here on the back side of it. As they transition through, when they're scent checking this, we are behind doe bedding from above in the field. So I'm accessing from my property line from the creek shelf down below. I'm keying up into the stand location, And this transition is unscathed, untouched. All of the activity from above it is sucked down into it. I'm getting in and out of the stand, and they have no idea we're in the world. This stand here is pretty neat because we have a leeward sit right here, right over my shoulder right there. There is going to be an east wind. This is my west fence row. This is an east wind because of the contour right here. An east wind leeward set. And how I'm accessing this, yes, I am cutting the line of travel, but I'm cutting it right next to it, right next to the camera. So my access is from the property line up to the stand, which is now cleared, and then I have a path cleared from there to the camera, which I always do. We cross the transition, and we're about 10-15 yards from the trail, closer to the trail, so we can push that leeward wind over the top of them. Separate video, but that's where it's at. One licking branch, 2 stands, 1 point of impact. So to finish that, you know, they have to be in the right spot. You have to, just like this here, you know, this is the right spot, but one of the reasons that they weren't using it a lot, I knew that I could, you know, after this was all created, I knew this was really going to come into full swing. Well, I'll show you here is what I've done is this was on a pretty good grade. Now, in the trail and flat is what you're looking for. Waist high, just below waist height, that's the ingredients. But if that is not completely flat, how do you flatten it? What I do is I have this pickaxe, I'll show you here, pick on the one end, axe on the other, and that we used in the woods over the years. And that's what I do. I like to make these at least 3 foot flat. I say 4 foot, but you know, usually by the time I get a 4 foot flat spot in there, you move quite a bit of dirt. But I take the dirt out of the bank and put it down so it's flat right underneath that 3 foot circle, right underneath the licking branch. And if you haven't seen that work, notch one of them in if you have it on a trail, and even if it's just slightly, and I'm talking you know, over 3 foot, if it's 2 inches or an inch, you know, from each side, they want their feet for whatever reason that is. And we just got lucky here, there's a trail right on the transition, hence the reason we you know, on this bench here we enhanced it, but it goes right straight through and hits right in the scrape. So when they come into it and out of it, whether it's from down the hill here to it or transitioning past right to the left of the stand, they are on it and they walk right straight through it. Now, 3 foot around right underneath it, and there was already tracks in it, and it was just tipped a little bit. They were already using it, got video of them and everything on it. But now that it's open, the transition's put in here because the successional growth in here is ridiculous. It's good, it's great browse, but there was no velvet, not any opportunity, any velvet movement down in here, which I feel pretty strongly about. You know, going back to that, you know, they're coming back to that fall movement. They have to be able to navigate through here at least a couple times a month so they know where they're going and where they can go come fall. And now they can do that. And since we've done that, the cameras are blowing up here. So we got a picture of a really neat buck last night actually on camera. I'll share with you. And he's just 2 of these up here, which finishes the point here that we'll touch on. Why we're doing this. We are promoting the line of travel. We are promoting the transition area in front of the tree stands. Every stand has a licking branch. You know, a 40 acres might have 8 stands. You have 8 licking branches. All different things that you can do, but what it all boils down to is enhancing the point of impacts and enhancing the line of travel for your transition areas on your farms. And that is why we are doing it here in Kentucky. And there's just some natural benches that just happen to be in a bow hunter's dream set up here on the farm, and we are just enhancing those with licking branches.